Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. Today we've got a Makita warranty repair. This is the DHS680 18 volt Makita brushless circular saw. Now this one's in for repair and it actually needs a new motor. Expensive part to actually buy, a whole controller unit with the field, but Makita must be listening, because the part that I ordered I've actually had to ring up about because it wasn't coming in. I've been informed, no, that's gone, not available anymore, obsolete. They've actually changed it. They've changed it to two separate pieces. This is what you like to see brands doing. Now the controller is actually separate from the stator, the field. Very handy setup to have. The controller itself is still quite expensive, €100 for that there to actually buy. But this one's under warranty, so it's not going to cost the customer anything. But even outside of warranty, at least with these two parts now separate, if your controller does go, it still would be probably worth fixing if your saw is in good enough shape. But more so through the stator. If your stator burns out on its own and the controller's still okay, it's a lot cheaper now to actually stick in a new stator instead of replacing the controller as well and whacking the price up. These two parts together, if your stator failed, will be too expensive to actually fix the saw. But separately, you can keep your saw running for a lot longer, especially if your stator burns out. Right, so this one, she's in for repair and she's under warranty. She's actually doing nothing. Tempting to run, but not doing anything else. The blade basically just shakes a little bit. Now, sometimes before they do this, they can actually become intermittent, as in sometimes it'll run, sometimes it won't. If you give the blade a wee spin by hand, with the battery not on it obviously, and try again, sometimes it'll start. It'll do that for a little while, but eventually it'll just break itself like this, and actually stop running completely. So this is totally dead. So I'll tear into this and see if we can get her fixed up. That out of the way. Let's get here first. This thing's fairly fresh, it's not done an awful lot. She actually has a 2024. So she's still within the 1 year warranty. I think he's just registered as well, so it's actually under a 3-year warranty. Makita uses a lot of these switches and a lot of tools. They look the same, but they're different layouts. This one's just a simple on-off switch. It's only using 2 pins. As you can see, there's actually 5 altogether, but these ones are blank. Just test that to make sure. We already know it's working because the LED is coming on. That's okay. But you do get the same switch and things like Makita cordless planers and that. It has a brake as well. So you'll have another terminal over here that actually activates whenever you're not using the switch. So whenever the switch is off, it activates a brake. When you turn it on, it activates the motor. Then you get other ones as well, like the big Makita hammers that have an extra terminal up here for things like LEDs and that. This one, don't even have to get out the thermal imaging camera. I can feel the heat of that. It's not scalding hot, but it is warm. So there is something going inside of there. You can see just there, the resin's actually split. See a wee mark there? That's where something's actually got hot, burnt up, and let the smoke out. So that's gone. I'll also just check the stator. Make sure that's not burnt up. Nothing wrong with that one. Good shape. And obviously the magnets are still strong enough. These things get overworked and they burn out the stator. They produce a lot of heat. Heat can actually make the magnet a little bit weaker. The thing will actually sound like it's running right, but it'll be drawing too many amps. And if you start cutting it, it'll start cutting out on you. But this one's plenty strong enough. Just 609 on the end. It's an MBD bearing, made in Thailand. Decent enough bearing on it. And on the bottom then, it's actually an NSK bearing, and it's a 626, made in Indonesia. Good brand of bearings and good size for the size of the rotor it's on it. Now the stator. Looks good. You'll know when the stator's gone because the actual one of the coils will be burnt up, or several of them. There should be a nice shiny copper colour. If they're starting to get a black tinge, you know they're starting to overheat or burn out. Whenever they fail, you'll always see one of them blackened completely compared to the other ones. Now to change this controller, you also have to get to the back of the stator, so you have to get this out. It's very high tech to remove. Give it a wee slap. And the question is the old part, this one, still compatible with the new ones? In other words, can you change the stator on this one for the new version, or is this here completely obsolete? Sometimes when they do change things, they're just not always compatible. This one here is actually soldered on, look. So 4 screws to take off this board. But before you can take it off, you have to unsolder the joints here. It's a wee bit tricky doing that. You'll have to heat up each one to liquefy the solder and actually suck it out, and that takes quite a bit of heat, and this is all sitting on plastic, so that might not suit replacing. That's the part number for the new one. Yeah, different. So this one soldered on here, this one here is actually soldered onto the screw holes. So instead of there being 4 screws to hold on this plate, the screws actually held on to all the connection tabs for these windings. So there's 6 screws in this one instead of 4. So instead of the solder joints, they're actually held on by screws. Right, so in other words, this won't suit this one. So if your motor burns out on your old version of this, you have to replace both the stator and the controller together anyway. But on the newer ones now, after this one, the ones you're buying today, they're going to have 2 separate parts. So this will not suit for anybody that has an older version of this. That's your controller there. There's your board there with the Hall effect sensors, and this is your board for actually just connecting the leads on. Right. So if you are replacing this, if your stator does burn out, make sure you open her up first and check. See if the actual tabs here are soldered on or screwed on. If they're screwed on, you're fine. You can replace this for €40. But if they're soldered on, you're replacing the whole thing. You have to buy these 2 parts. As well as that, we do also still need our battery retainer and the switch. Angle connection goes onto the retainer, the straight one's going onto the switch. And always change one wire at a time. Don't just go pulling everything out and then forgetting where everything goes. Because not all brands will actually give you a wiring diagram. If you do mess up the wiring, to know which way it all goes back together again. Nothing matters with this one, because this switch is only just switching these two wires, so it doesn't actually matter which side you put these on. Now obviously for the board, the actual Hall effect sensors here are facing down into the stator, the field. There's two little plastic tabs here that actually center it and locate it. That goes on there. And your plate then goes on the back. Now, the problem I have now is screwing these on. Nothing on there. Nothing on here now, but there was something on here. So this comes with these here screws to attach it, but they come on the box for the stator. And obviously that box ain't exactly sealed, so as that was on transit, the screws have actually dropped out of it. So I'm only left with one. That's not much use. I need 6 of them. So Makita, if you're watching, good idea supplying the stator separately, but put the 6 little screws in a separate little bag inside the box, because they're just going to get lost if there's something loose. It's a good job, but just make sure the screws don't go missing, because there's not much anybody can do without them wee things. They're a tiny little screw. So now I have to get 5 more of these. Well, hopefully 1 more. There's 4 here. I'm assuming they're the same size, the same type. Nope. That's just a standard thread, not a machine thread. Plus, way too long. So, need 5 of these. I actually have nothing that size. It's actually an M2 by 7mm. I have nothing that's going to match that. So I've actually got on to Makita again to see if they'd send me out 12 of these here. Told them as well to package them a wee bit better, put them inside a plastic bag. But that could take a while to come on, so I've also just went up to the hardware shop and got them to order me in just 100 or 200 of M2 by 7 machine screws. Because I can imagine this is going to come up again. But for now, all I can do is box this up and wait for them to come on. Well, you can't beat that for customer service. We screws ordered yesterday, here first thing this morning. And you can actually buy them on their own. That's the part number there, if you ever get stuck, which by the looks of it you could very easily. Only have 6 in stock, but I have a few more in order as well. So we'll get a few of them in, just in case it happens again. And they are an M2 by 6. That's a good thing about Makitas as well. They actually give you the size. Most brands just give you a part number. They actually give you a size. You don't have to just use their pan head screws. Give you the size. You can use anything. Same as bearings. don't give you a part number for the bearing, they actually give you the name and size of the bearing as well. So we can get this back together now. These are tiny, but they are actually a PH1. Not a real awkward size like a PH0 or 00. And they are taking an electrical connection as well, so make sure they're good and tight, but not so tight you strip them out. This is a far better setup, because I see it an awful lot, especially on drills and grinders where the stators come on burnt up. At least this way, if you do burn up your stator, or if it gets a knock and it becomes imbalanced, the stator moves and rubs on your armature, and you burn it up that way, you can still replace the stator on its own. One new stator installed on a separate controller. Just a little plastic insert here just beside the wires, and actually slides in along this track here for the wires, so it guides it on and keeps it square. It'll be a tight fit. And this air deflector is sighted. Can't put it on that way, because this little cutout here has to line up with this. Drop in your rotor. Now the actual wires come out down here, and the actual air deflector keeps them away from the rotor. This little track that has to line up, this is for air. It's actually just to blow air into the handle. There's a wee cut out here too. Whenever this fan's running, it's blowing air through this track into the handle, down on top of your control board here. That helps keep that board cool, as well as having the big aluminium heatsink on it. And these wires don't go under the speed controller, they actually fit down along here. You just twist them around. Put your speed control board down in there. This one for your small switch up here, tucks along the back of the handle there. Just sits neatly in there. Your switch just drop in there as well. And that should hopefully be the motor and controller. Body should sit down nice and tight. It shouldn't wobble back and forth. If it's not sitting down nice and flush all the way around, if it's wobbling, it's more than likely sitting on a pinched wire. So make sure it's all flat before you screw it down. washer on here first, and your nut, which is a left hand thread. Set it up where you want it to sit. And then squeeze on your C clip, your E clip. And that should be it. On Makita DHS680 brushless 18 volt circular saw with a new speed controller and stator fitted. Now that one was under warranty, and the boy, I'll be glad to get it back now. That's her, ready to go. And that's her, ready for work. That's it, that's a lot folks. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed this wee tool repair session. If you're liking the tool repair videos, give us a wee like and a follow down below. Cheers, thanks for watching.